So coming off the back of the Fabio Wardley purse bid debacle, Frazer Clarke is fighting Mariusz Wach Friday night at York Hall Bethnal Green. His promoter Ben Shalom said he wanted Frazer Clarke to get some rounds before facing a Fabio Wardley fighting for the British title. Mariusz Wach is the kind of guy who will give you rounds. He has been stopped a few times, but he's only been down, to my knowledge, once, and that was recently against Arslanbek Makhmudov, who's a very big, strong, powerful fighter. And even though Mariusz Wach went down, it wasn't a heavy knockdown. He was getting overwhelmed with punches in the corner, and he kind of just sank down rather than being knocked down, if you get what I'm saying. So anyway, Frazer Clarke versus Mariusz Wach. Now, there was some talk, I heard Eddie Hearn and some other people at Matchroom mention this, that it was going to be an 8-rounder. And this is, remember, headlining the show. That would be strange. An 8-round fight headlining a Friday Night Sky show. Here on BoxRec, it says it's a 10-round fight. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe they've got the backlash, Sky boxer Ben Shalom got the backlash from it only being an 8-rounder, and they've decided to make it a 10-rounder. I don't know. Because again, if you're saying that Frazer Clarke needs rounds, why would you put him in an 8-rounder, not a 10-rounder? Because previously you were talking about putting him in a 10-rounder. It is what it is. He's fighting Mariusz Wach. So Frazer Clarke, 6-0, 5 KOs, 6 feet, 6 inches tall, 31 years of age, Olympian and all that. We know who he is. Mariusz Wach, I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with him as well. 43 years of age now, 6'7.5", a very, very big man indeed. 37 wins, 20 KOs, 9 losses, 4 of those losses by stoppage. Still has a great chin. I mean, he's been the distance with Vladimir Klitschko back in the days, and he took every single right hand that Klitschko could muster. Bang on that massive jaw of his, and he never even looked close to going down, Mariusz Wach. That shows you what a great chin he's got. The same right hands that were dropping people left, right, and center, like Kubrat Pulev and Anthony Joshua and all these other people who Vladimir Klitschko dropped over the years. He hit Mariusz Wach with those and nothing happened. So this guy really does have a tremendous chin. He also went the distance, nearly went the distance with Povetkin. He got stopped in the final round. Never went down, but was stopped in the final round. I think it was on an eye injury. He went the distance with Dillian Whyte, of course. So, yeah, been around a long time. In recent years, he's been fighting some pretty obscure opposition. Did lose to Kevin Lerena. That's the guy that gave Daniel Dubois some trouble a couple fights back. Lost to him on points last year, over 12. Makhmudov, as I say, stopped him in 6. That was in Canada. That was also last year. Hughie Fury managed to beat him over the course of 10 rounds. His last win was in his last fight, but prior to that, and that was against some obscure opponent, prior to that, his last win was in 2020 against Kevin Johnson. Why on earth is Kevin Johnson still fighting? Yeah, outpointed by Dillian Whyte in Saudi Arabia, etc., etc. You get the picture. So for a tune-up, for a fight that's going to get you rounds, Mariusz Wach is certainly not a bad opponent for Frazer Clarke. It would be a statement if he managed to stop him, if he managed to stop him early, an even bigger statement. But again, they want rounds, so perhaps Frazer Clarke won't be looking to try and get him out of there. I don't know. Or maybe won't be looking to try and get him out of there early. But one thing I can say about Mariusz Wach is occasionally he will, because he's in the journeyman category at this point. That's where people are putting him. But he still occasionally turns up with some ambition. And when he does, he can be dangerous because he can punch. And as I say, he's got a tremendous chin. You put those two things together in a heavyweight this size, it can be trouble if you're not on your P's and Q's. So maybe Frazer Clarke, I hope I'm not mistaken Frazer Clarke occasionally. Sometimes I'll mix up the names of Frazer Clarke and Fabio Wardley. I hope I haven't been doing that in this video. But I obviously know who they are, the difference between the two of them, but sometimes I mix their names up. Anyway, Frazer Clarke really shouldn't be playing around with a guy like this if he's come with any ambition. He should be, if he can, getting him out of there as soon as possible. If not, being careful and being sensible at least for the duration of the 8 or 10 rounds that this fight goes. So, yeah, that's what it is. Frazer Clarke versus Mariusz Wach. Hopefully, Frazer Clarke will then fight for the British title against Fabio Wardley. Maybe he's gone down in the queue. Maybe we'll see David Adelaide fight Fabio Wardley before Frazer Clarke manages to get the opportunity. I guess it depends on what the British Boxing Board of Control want to do, because they're the ones who ordered the fight in the first place. And since he didn't take it, are they going to penalize him by bringing him down in the pecking order? Or, is politics playing a part here and they're going to order the fight once again if he gets past Mariusz Wach? We shall see. Now, on the undercard of this event, you've got Hassan Azim. He's the brother of Adam Azim. You've got Roman Fury. I'm assuming he's part of the Tyson Fury family. And you've also got Vidal Riley. Now, this is an interesting one for me. Vidal Riley is rematching Anees Taj. Anees Taj is a guy he fought last time out. He's a very tough individual, Anees Taj. He has lost a couple times, but he seems to have a very good chin. He's an aggressive fighter. He's a big personality. And the last fight they had, which was earlier on this year in February, was stopped because Taj got a cut over the eye. But he certainly wasn't winning in those 4 rounds that it went, or just under 4 rounds. He certainly wasn't winning. Vidal Riley was getting the better of it, but Taj is strong. We haven't seen Vidal Riley have to back off from opponents and move around the ring and, use some slickness, but that's exactly what he had to do against Anees Taj because the guy is so strong and so tough. So apparently Taj was harassing Vidal Riley for this rematch and harassing everybody involved, and he's got his wish. Vidal Riley has decided to capitulate under the pressure of this guy badgering him for a rematch, and he's giving it to him. So there you go. Let's see how this one plays out. It's over 8 rounds, just like the first fight was. Vidal Riley, I think, has shaken off a lot of the rust because he was not that active earlier on in his career for various reasons, but we know he was involved in training some of these YouTubers for these misfit type cards and what have you. But now he's focused more on his own career. And over the past couple fights, I have seen improvements because in his debut in the first few fights, I really wasn't impressed by Vidal Riley. And I'm not saying he looks amazing now, but I can definitely see more talent in him at this point than was the case in his very early fights. And I look at this guy and compare him, for example, to Chev Clarke, who is with Matchroom. Chev Clarke has had 6 fights, so he's 6-0. Vidal Riley's had 8. Very similar stages of their careers. Vidal Riley is several years younger than Chev Clarke. Chev Clarke's in his early 30s. Vidal Riley's 25. At some stage, you would imagine Riley and Clarke's paths are going to cross. Will it be for the British Cruiserweight title? Obviously, the British Cruiserweight title is currently held by somebody else. But if their paths do cross, since they're on a similar trajectory at the moment, as it stands right now, I would firmly be picking Vidal Riley to win that fight. Chev Clarke, I saw him fight again the other day, and look, the opponent that Chev Clarke fought reminded me of Tom Dallas. You guys remember Tom Dallas, the guy that David Price used to train with and chinned a few years ago? They were both signed with Frank Maloney at the time. Yeah, that's who Chev Clarke's opponent reminded me of. I thought, he might be a strong, tough guy or whatever, but in terms of his ability, he was awful. I don't really see a great deal of talent in Chev Clarke in terms of world-level talent, in terms of even European-level talent. Chev Clarke, to me, is a bit stiff. He's not particularly fast. There's power there, yes, but, so many fighters at cruiserweight have got power. But when it comes to the other aspects of his game, I think Vidal Riley would smoke his boots if they ever fight each other. I think Vidal Riley would have a very good chance of knocking Chev Clarke out. And, it's not just the fact that Chev Clarke is stiff and, a little cumbersome at times. His punch variety isn't particularly great. It's not just that. It's also the fact that he's been hurt in several of his fights so far. Remember, Chev Clarke's only had 6 fights. And he's already been hurt several times by journeymen. Now, look, you can get hurt by journeymen. There are certain journeymen out there that can really crack. I mean, Andre Ward got dropped by a journeyman. The same journeyman who knocked out Adonis Stevenson and dropped Sergey Kovalev, Darnell Boone. So, there are journeymen out there that are dangerous. But what are the odds of Chev Clarke fighting several dangerous journeymen in the first few fights of his professional career. Because this guy got hurt, in at least 2 fights. It might have been 3 fights. That's disturbing to me. And again, look at his age. He's in his early 20s. So, yeah, anyway, whenever I think of Vidal Riley or see Vidal Riley fight, I always think of Chev Clarke just because they're at a similar stage of their career. Anyway, that's the show with Frazer Clarke against Mariusz Wach topping the bill. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.